Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today, tonight, whatever time it is for you? We're gonna do some reactions. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. So, today, we're gonna do some reactions. What's up, everybody? How we doing today? We doing good? Today's reaction day. Let's get into it. We got 34 illnesses, why content curators go insane, the deadliest amusement parks, and the deadliest carnival rides.
34 illnesses, 7 levels. We'll start with the more eerie and well-known, but as we descend, the illness will grow increasingly disturbing and unsettling. This is the ultimate mental illness iceberg. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Level 1. ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Imagine you're trying to host a meeting at work and someone keeps switching the slides before you finish reading. That's basically how ADHD works in a nutshell. It's like having a mental browser with 1,000 tabs open in your head, and the worst part is that you can't even focus on one. Now, unlike what most...
What? That's so true, though. That is so true, though. That is so true, though. You can never focus on one thing. Once you start something, you forget about everything else that you got to do. Like, it's so annoying. But okay.
People think ADHD is not just a case of being easily distracted or overly energetic. It's actually a neurodevelopmental disorder that packs a punch in two main areas, which are inattention and hyperactivity impulsivity. Now, with inattention, it feels like your brain has a mind of its own, and you will constantly be in a state of forgetfulness. We're talking about completely zoning out during conversations, losing items like there's a hole in your pocket, and completely avoiding tasks that require prolonged mental effort. The ability to not focus on tasks for long, mixed with avid impulsivity and wildness, can be the perfect recipe for disaster. At its worst, ADHD...
It is. It is. It is so bad. It is so bad. Maybe that's why I'm looking everywhere on the screen. Number one, ADHD. Number two, I have two chats up. To the right of me is my TikTok. To the left of me is YouTube. It's not on your screen because it gets really annoying. But wow, that is so true. What's up, Doc? How you doing? Let's get into that video.
Can significantly hinder academic, occupational,
Well, while this plays, how's everybody doing today?
and
All right, never mind.
social performance.
I mean,
ODD,
yeah, how's everybody doing?
oppositional defiant disorder. This mental condition is mostly seen in little children and is characterized by a consistent pattern of angry or irritable mood, argumentative or defiant behavior, and vindictiveness. But before it was finally introduced as a distinct disorder in 1980 with the publication of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 3rd edition, DSM-3, children who showed such behaviors were often labeled as simply troublesome or difficult. A child with ODD.
See, I don't have ODD, but like, bro. I know, what's up, Cody? I know a lot of people with ODD, and it's so bad. It is so bad. It is so bad. What's up, Carson? It is so bad. And what's up, Braxton? What's up, Hayden? What's up, Billy? How you doing? Thank you to liking.
D would have really bad and very frequent temper tantrums. They would often argue excessively with adults and always try to break the rules. The child would also make a constant, deliberate effort and attempt to annoy everyone around them, and when caught, they would always blame others for their own mistakes. It's like living with a little gremlin who doesn't know when to stop pushing your buttons. As of right now, the exact cause of ODD is not definitively known, but a combination of genetic, environmental, and psychological factors is believed to contribute. Whatever the case may be, though, ODD does improve over time and approximately resolves within 3 years at least. But the twist here is that this just happens about 67% of the time. The remaining 30%-ish often grow up and develop more lasting personality disorders. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
No, I don't have this, but so hard to deal with. Like this goes hard with like everything in general. This is hard to deal with.
Long before PTSD had a name, people were already exhibiting the symptoms of this because the general point of this disorder is trauma. I mean, during the Civil War, soldiers suffered from soldier's heart or irritable heart, which was characterized by rapid pulse and anxiety. In World War I, the term shell shock emerged to describe soldiers exhibiting tremors, nightmares, and impaired sight and hearing after combat exposure. And by World War II, this condition was referred to as combat fatigue or war neurosis. But it wasn't until the publication of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders in 1980 that PTSD was formally recognized as a mental health disorder. But this time around, it wasn't just diagnosed for soldiers alone. People who had also witnessed or experienced any sort of traumatic event that really altered the course of their life or health were equally diagnosed.
Yes, like seeing somebody die or something like that. That is deep. It's deep, bro. It's sad.
With PTSD, we're talking about traumatic events like natural disasters, a serious accident, a terrorist attack, war or combat, rape, or other violent personal assault. However, not everyone who actually goes through a traumatic event develops PTSD, and factors like how intense and long the trauma was, how close you were to the event, and even personal history all play a role in determining if you develop PTSD or not. Thankfully, trauma-based focused cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, has been shown to be effective when treating this condition.
Are you a Roblox fanatic? Microsoft Rewards has a brand new way for you to earn
misophonia. The literal meaning of this word in Greek is hatred of sound, and that's kinda sorta what misophonia is about. The term misophonia was coined in 2001 by neuroscientists Powell and Margaret Jastreboff, and is characterized by an intense emotional reaction like anger, disgust, or anxiety to specific sounds. Mostly the types that humans produce are chewing, lip smacking, yawning, and sniffing. It should not be confused with hyperacusis, a sensitivity to certain frequencies or volume ranges, or phonophobia, which is the fear of sounds. If you are diagnosed with misophonia, you'll also notice that aside from disgust and anger, you'll also have physical symptoms like increased heart rate and muscle tension whenever you hear the sounds that trigger you. This condition is often misunderstood as a simple dislike for certain sounds, but it can lead to substantial social and occupational disruptions. But there's a twist with this illness. The reaction is not necessarily related to the loudness of the sound, but rather its specific pattern or meaning to the individual. So many people with misophonia cannot trigger themselves with the sounds they produce, and even if it causes a reaction, it would be way weaker than if another person produced the sound. Level 2. Histrionic personality disorder. The concept of HPD has evolved over the centuries, but its roots can be traced back to ancient civilizations.
I don't even know what this is.
Where behaviors now associated with HPD were often linked to the notion of hysteria. Interestingly, this was because hysteria actually means uterus in Greek, because the doctors during that era decided that such behaviors were only exclusive to women and related to uterine disturbances. Well, in the 19th century, Jean-Martin Charcot and Sigmund Freud further explored hysteria and concluded that it is actually a type of neurosis.
Alright. True. But okay then, buddy.
That often stems from repressed psychological trauma. When you read up about this condition, you'll see words like excessively theatrical, melodramatic, and exaggerated. And this is because HPD manifests most dramatically. People who are diagnosed with this condition exhibit symptoms like being very uncomfortable, loud, or highly emotional when they are not the center of attention. They would also perform inappropriately seductive or provocative behavior, or try to use their physical appearance to draw attention. Even though their emotions might appear intense and theatrical, they are very shallow and can be easily influenced by others or circumstances. Now, while most people have some of these traits, if they are still able to perform normally, it is not considered a personality disorder. However, when there is a long-term pattern of behavior, thinking, and emotions that cause distress and make it difficult to function in everyday life or achieve emotional intimacy in romantic or platonic relationships, then it has crossed over to the disorder lane. Transvestic disorder. Once upon a time in the early 20th century, a
What is this? Chat, what is this?
German physician named Magnus Hirschfeld coined the term transvestism in 1910. This term was used to describe individuals who wore clothing traditionally associated with the opposite gender. Fast forward to today, we have the transvestic disorder. Basically, this disorder is a condition where someone feels recurring, powerful urges to dress in clothes associated with the opposite sex, and this habit significantly disrupts their life. Now, before we go any further, here's an important note. Cross-dressing isn't a disorder. You can throw on a tutu, a pirate hat, or whatever tickles your fancy without it being a problem. It only becomes a disorder if it causes major distress, like ruining relationships or making someone feel stuck in a cycle of guilt and shame. However, unlike cross-dressing, this disorder is mainly associated with the fact that dressing up like that provides intense sexual arousal. Yep, sexual arousal. It's like their libido has a dress code. The sensory experience of silk, lace, or even the sound of heels clicking on the
What's up,
floor
Parker?
might become part of the
It's me, Rafa.
thrill. Well, to be diagnosed with transvestic disorder, one must experience these urges for at least 6 months, and they must cause significant distress or impair daily functioning. Alzheimer's
Okay, what do you mean by that? Alzheimer's? Okay, yeah, that just... Most people get this when they're older. That's like the whole thing. But... For... Okay.
disease. The story of Alzheimer's disease began in 1901 when a woman named Augusta Dieter, who exhibited unusual behavioral symptoms and memory loss. The doctor, Alois Alzheimer, who was a German psychiatrist, took a lot of interest in her case, and after Augusta's death 5 years later, the good doctor examined her brain and identified abnormal clumps and tangled bundles of fibers. These clumps are now called amyloid plaques, and the fiber neurofibrillary tangles. Yeah, that's a mouthful. What basically happens in your brain when Alzheimer's disease comes to stay is that the amyloid plaques would become sticky protein fragments that accumulate between your nerve cells, ultimately disrupting communication. It's like having roadblocks on every street. Then the neurofibrillary tangles, which are twisted fibers of another protein, would build up inside your cells and cause their deaths. Think of them as massive potholes causing vehicles to break down. And, well, over time, your brain would start to shrink, especially in areas responsible for memory and thinking. You'd equally go through different stages, but the last stage you may even need help with doing basic things like eating and dressing. Worst part is that throughout these stages, you'll have severe mood swings, apathy, and a general change in behavior. Right now, there is really no cure for it since it's a progressive neurological disorder, but treatments focus on managing symptoms. Agoraphobia. At its core, agoraphobia is an anxiety disorder where you'd fear and avoid places or situations that might cause you to panic or feel trapped, helpless, or embarrassed. It was first coined in 1871 by German psychologist Carl Friedrich Otto Westphal, and the words basically mean fear of the marketplace. Greek. I mean, if you've watched any ancient Greek movie, then you'd know that that's a real fear factor. However, agoraphobia extends to literally being in any place or situation where the sufferer does not feel any type of safety. Any place where they feel trapped or where escape might be difficult or imposing. Think about places like public transport, standing in queues, or anywhere where a large crowd's present. To spot someone experiencing agoraphobia could
I mean, this makes sense. Yeah. It's crazy work, though.
be fairly easily because they'd immediately start to get panic attacks with symptoms like breathlessness, sweating, dizziness, and a fast heart rate, and a reluctance to leave the house or venture beyond familiar surroundings. Sometimes the condition might even be so severe that they'll physically be unable to leave the house. Sadly, prolonged and untreated agoraphobia can severely reduce a person's quality of life because, firstly, activities outside the home,
What's up, Zach? No, SRT.
such as work, school, socializing, and hobbies, are out of reach. Koro syndrome. Just imagine how you'd feel waking up one morning completely scared out of your mind because you think your genitals are shrinking and retreating into your body. Yup, shrinking. Now, even though we know that this is
Wow. 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 Wow.
not even medically or physically possible, it is a serious syndrome in Southeast Asia. The term Koro is derived from a Malay word meaning the head of a turtle, alluding to the way a turtle retracts its head into its shell. For men, there's a fear of the penis shrinking into the abdomen, and for women, there's a fear of the vulva and breasts shrinking into the abdomen and chest, all followed by impending death. The men, in an effort to stop the shrinkage, may try to secure the penis with a string or other device, while women may stick pins into their breasts. Now, Koro has been recognized for centuries, with its first
What? Okay. All right. Um, didn't expect to hear that ever. Wow. Wow.
documented case in ancient China. Over time, it has appeared in
My name is Cecilia. I'm a mom of two
Wow.
girls, a psychologist, and I choose to transform my PVC treatment
various cultures, predominantly in East and Southeast Asia, including countries like China, Malaysia, India, Singapore, and Thailand. So it is actually a culture-specific syndrome. However, you should know that recent studies have shown that most of the Koro cases may be in association with some primary psychiatric disorders such as schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, drug use, or other medical conditions. Trichotillomania. So you're at a party and someone walks in with a perfectly symmetrical bald spot on their head. You think it's one of the new fashion choices, but the truth is that they've been pulling their hair out. Not figuratively, like a stressed parent, but literally. This is because the person has a condition called trichotillomania, which is an irresistible urge to pull out their own hair. And no, it's not because they're auditioning for a Mad Max movie. You see, trichotillomania is part of a group of disorders called body-focused repetitive behaviors, BFRBs, which means simply saying stop would not help at all because the person pulling simply can't stop. The worst part is that the hair pulling is not limited to just the head alone, but literally anywhere that has a follicle. We're talking eyebrows, lashes, and even body hair. While it's not entirely clear what causes this condition, genes, stress, and even boredom have been known to be a contributing factor. Sometimes
It's really weird because they can't help it. So that's like uncomfortable. Um, it's really weird. Really weird. I'm thinking, is it like they also do the downstairs hair too, or is it just like body hair and head hair and nose hair and eyebrow hair and eyelashes?
pulling their hair is also a way of dealing with negative and uncomfortable feelings. In rare cases, some people might even start to eat their hair as they pull it, resulting in
What? Okay. I didn't know that was gonna pop up.
hairballs getting trapped in their digestive tract, resulting in surgery. Level 3. Stendhal syndrome. You know the popular saying that goes, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder? Well, people with Stendhal syndrome took that a little too personally. Let me explain. Now, while most people would see a beautiful painting, drawing, or even person and feel joy, wonder, or even amazement, a person with this syndrome would feel an intense, knee-wrecking anxiety and fear. Anything beautiful literally becomes so overwhelming to them that they might even faint, feel confused, or start to hallucinate. The term Stendhal syndrome originates from the 19th century French writer Stendhal, who, during his visit to Florence's Basilica of Santa Croce, was so mesmerized by the tombs of legends like Michelangelo and Galileo that he felt an ecstasy mixed with heart palpitations, dizziness, and fear. Art literally took his breath away. In fact, in 1979, an Italian psychiatrist, Dr. Graziella Margarini, observed over 100 tourists in Florence who became seriously ill after admiring art. She coined the term Stendhal syndrome to describe this phenomenon. In 2018, a visitor at Florence's Uffizi Gallery suffered a heart attack while admiring Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. Talk about a heartfelt appreciation. Close-eyed hallucinations. Imagine closing your eyes and instead of everywhere becoming completely dark, you are suddenly seeing vivid images, patterns, or even entire scenes. Chances are you likely have a condition known as close-eyed hallucinations, CEH, which are visual experiences that occur when your eyes are closed or when you're in a dark environment. Now, the phenomenon of experiencing visual
I get that sometimes. What? I'll start seeing stuff. Not like stuff. I don't know. It's hard to think. Like, I'll start seeing lines if my eyes are closed for too long. Like, if I'm trying to go to sleep and can't, when I close my eyes, I like to start seeing, like, lines and crap.
sensations without external stimuli has intrigued humans for centuries, and in the 1930s, psychologist Wolfgang Metzger actually conducted a study to understand the situation better. This research led scientists to conclude that even when your eyes are closed, your brain doesn't just switch off. It's constantly active, and sometimes it decides to throw a little light show. These visual experiences are related to a scientific process called phosphenes, which occur during the ongoing activity between neurons in the brain and your visual system. Things like closing your eyes in a well-lit environment or under sunlight can allow small amounts of light to penetrate your eyelids, creating visual effects. Even applying gentle pressure to your closed eyes can stimulate the retina, leading to the perception of light and shapes. Remember those childhood days of pressing your eyes to see fireworks? Turns out you were conducting a science experiment. Madonna.
Wow, so it's just the brain working harder? That's crazy. I didn't even know that. Dude, that's cool.
You know that in Texas, rifles can be carried in public without a license, whereas in Florida, no open carrying is allowed, except in unique situations like in hunting or fishing. Hi, I'm Chloe.
Hunting, fishing, or camping.
A long time ago, in the realm of psychology, a certain Sigmund Freud, think of him as the Sherlock Holmes of the mind, stumbled upon a curious phenomenon among men. He noticed that some gentlemen had a peculiar habit of categorizing women into two distinct groups: the virtuous Madonnas and the, well, less virtuous. Thus, the term the Madonna complex. Basically, what Sigmund was trying to explain was that some men, or a man, might adore and respect a woman he sees as pure, aka the Madonna, but would find himself unable to feel any passionate or sexual urges toward her. And on the flip side, he would be sexually drawn to women he views as but wouldn't be able to muster any real affection for them. In Sigmund's exact words, where such men love, they have no desire, and where they desire, they cannot love. Apparently, this debased idea of love comes from deep-seated anxieties and childhood experiences. For instance, imagine a boy who adores his mom, his original Madonna, but feels that expressing feelings towards her is a big no-no. As he grows up, this internal conflict leads him to split women into two camps to keep things psychologically tidy. The funny part is that this complex is still alive and kicking. Men grappling with this mindset often struggle to maintain healthy, intimate relationships.
That makes a lot of sense.
And they might find it challenging to see their partners as both loving companions and passionate lovers, leading to a roller coaster of relationship woes. Erotomania. We all have celebrity crushes. I mean, life would be pretty boring if you can't even fantasize about ending up as Chris Hemsworth's or Rihanna's one and only true love. But, you know, deep down, that is just a crush and something to joke about, right? Well, try telling that to someone with erotomania, which is a psychological disorder where an individual harbors the delusional belief that another person, often someone of higher social status or a complete stranger, is madly in love with them. If you have this condition, you would be completely and utterly convinced that this made-up admirer is professing love through subtle cues or secret messages.
Oh my god, I know somebody with this. He always be posting Sabrina Carpenter or whatever the flip her name is that plays what's her name in that one show Wednesday. What's her name? And he's like, dude, she loves me. We're gonna get together. Blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, bro, she's not gonna be with you, dog. You're like 16. She's like 23. He's like, bro, but I acted with her. Yeah, you acted in the Wednesday movie, but number one, you're a side character that has like 3 parts on like 6 seasons.
Casual wave becomes a marriage proposal, and a simple hello is tantamount to a sonnet. They might also believe that the object of their affection is communicating and sending them secret love messages through their Instagram posts. Talk about reading between the lines. It's like living in a romantic comedy, but without the comedy, and, well, without the romance. At its worst state, the delusion and obsession can become all-consuming, leaving little to no room for anything else in their lives. They might start to stalk, harass, or even break into the homes and workplaces of their beloved. The worst part is that even when the object of their affection finally takes notice and tries to block or report them, they'd literally interpret it as a sign of their burning passion. It's the psychological equivalent of a romantic Titanic, except in this case, there's no lifeboat. Oniroid syndrome. The word oniroid itself means dreamlike, which is a very fitting description if you consider what the people who have this condition go through. Basically, oniroid syndrome, OS, is a fascinating and rare psychiatric condition that blurs the lines between dreams and reality. You'll literally feel like you're living in a vivid...
Chevy is called the heartbeat of America. Like the people who keep this
Okay, I
country
get that
moving.
sometimes,
For
though.
them, only America's most dependable truck will do.
I get that sometimes, though.
dreamlike state while being wide awake. What this means is that you would have severe hallucinations, delusions, and dreams that would feel like it's merged into your reality. It's as if your mind is hosting a non-stop immersive theater production and they're the star of the show. These experiences can be so vivid that distinguishing between what's real and what's imagined becomes a very difficult task. You'll also be constantly disoriented, losing track of time, place, or even self. If you've ever walked into a room and forgotten why, just multiply that feeling by 20. Now, the exact timeline of when...
That's crazy. Because I always walk into a room and forget what I'm doing. That's ADHD for you. I swear, dude. I swear. I always be getting that. Oh, hey, Kaylee. Hey, Kaylee. Finally decided to show up. Uh-huh. talking to what, your host, your man? What? Your host more important than being a moderator in my stream? Kaylee, dang. By 4x4, my mom was dead and raised until the dog in a run on a 4x4. Alrighty, let's get back onto it.
Oniroid syndrome was first identified is a bit hazy, much like the condition itself. However, OS can be triggered by various factors, including schizophrenia, particularly the catatonic subtype, infections such as encephalitis, use of hallucinogenic substances like LSD, hashish, or ketamine, and severe brain injuries. Despite these scary situations,
all you need to do is download Buff, let it run in the background as you play, and just like that you'll start earning Buff points. These can be used in the marketplace to purchase things like Riot gift cards, Steam vouchers, or even just game
that the OS presents, getting treated to full recovery is very possible. However, treatment typically focuses on addressing the underlying cause. Boanthropy. Imagine waking up one morning and instead of craving coffee and pancakes, you feel an irresistible urge to graze on the nearest lawn. So you head outside, drop to your knees, and start munching grass like you've just won Cow Idol. Doesn't sound very realistic, right? Well, maybe not to you, but for a person with boanthropy, it is the most normal thing to do first thing in the morning. This is simply because boanthropy is a rare psychological condition where a person genuinely believes they're a cow or an ox. Yep, this isn't just a move.
So people think that they're a cow or an ox and eat grass early in the morning. Just wake up. Oh, yeah, let me eat some grass. What?
Mood swing. It's real, it's bizarre, and it's one of those cases where truth is stranger than fiction. Not only would they eat grass, they would crawl on all fours and sometimes even moo like cows. It's not just roleplay or method acting gone too far, they truly believe they're a bovine. Apparently, boanthropy has roots dating back to ancient times, so
And I was about to say, that's why it's called boanthropy, because of bovine. That makes 100% sense. But it doesn't. Like, the name makes sense, but you think you're a cow, so you just like, oh yeah, let me wake up, eat some grass.
it's not just a modern quirk. Even the Bible mentions it. King Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon around 6th century BCE is said to have suffered from a boanthropy-like condition. According to the Book of Daniel, this mighty king started acting like a cow after a divine punishment and ended up living in the fields, crawling on all fours and eating grass like cattle for 7 years. It's probably history's first documented case of boss to Bessie. For now, no one really knows why this happens, but in some cases, the condition often appears as a symptom of a broader psychological disorder, such as schizophrenia or psychosis. In these cases, the mind becomes so detached from reality that it convinces itself it's something entirely different, like a cow. Level 4. Alice
What's up,
in
Blake?
Wonderland Syndrome, AIWS. AIWS isn't about chasing white rabbits or battling card soldiers, but it's a neurological condition where your perception of size, space, and time takes a wild detour. Things may look much smaller or much larger. Time may feel like it's moving in slow motion, and your body might feel like it belongs to a funhouse mirror because parts of it might appear larger or smaller than they are. This condition mainly affects your senses and makes you question reality. It's like your brain is trying out experimental cinema, but you didn't buy a ticket. The thing about AIWS is that it can affect anyone at any time because it is simply
So do you always feel trapped? Because, like, I feel like if I was in Alice in Wonderland, I would feel trapped. Because everything's bigger and you're smaller. Is that what it is?
neurological. However, it is most commonly reported in children and often comes and goes, so kids might outgrow it. Adults can experience it too, though theirs is usually triggered by underlying health issues. Since it's a neurological thing, conditions like migraines, epilepsy, and viral infections are usually the main culprit. A fun fact about this condition is that the guy Lewis Carroll, who was the author of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, actually experienced migraines and visual distortions of himself, and it likely inspired Alice's adventures. It's like his brain had a subscription to AIWS and he turned it into literary gold. Kagura delusion. Kagura delusion is a delusional misidentification syndrome where someone firmly believes that a loved one, whether it's a spouse, sibling, parent, or even their pet, is an imposter. Imagine accusing your cat of being an undercover agent just because they're acting a little too mysterious. This delusion isn't exclusive to humans or pets, but can extend to objects. Someone with Kagura might insist their home or car has been replaced with an identical clone. It's like their brain is running on Freaky Friday mode every day of the week. You see, this condition happens when there is a disconnection between your emotions and your brain's facial recognition syndrome. Normally, when you see a friend, your brain's fusiform gyrus, which is the part responsible for facial recognition, recognizes them, and at the same time, your amygdala kicks in with the emotional attachment of what that friend is to you. But in Kagura delusion, the visual recognition works fine, so you know you're looking at your your friend, but the emotional signal from the amygdala is completely MIA. So without that warm, fuzzy feeling of familiarity, your brain fills in the blank with a wild conspiracy theory and basically concludes your friend is an imposter. Doctors usually diagnose Kagura through interviews, observation, and sometimes brain scans, and since there's unfortunately no blood test for doppelganger paranoia, they'll also have to rule out other conditions like dementia or psychosis to zero in on what's causing the delusion.
Okay, I'm gonna end live stream here. At the ad break. At the ad break. Oh my god, at the ad break.
At Harbor Freight, all our
And we
Content creation.
do a shorter one tomorrow. Like the dailiest carnival rides. But I'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day, great afternoon, great night, whatever time it is for you.